There were some games I was really nervous for, and now it feels different. It feels a lot harder for some reason.
For us, making it is everything. Losing would basically destroy everything, more or less.
When we came in the first time, everybody was like, who is this team, you know?
I think, well, this has been since the beginning of the Challenger Series that people underestimate us.
2-0 in this game stretch. Lowland Lions take themselves to the grand finals.
Everyone expected us to be underdogs, but well, we proved them wrong.
If we play our game, then I don't think there are many teams that outscale us like on an individual level.
Sure, I'm ready to show what I can do.
Honestly, I think Origen is stronger than LCS teams right now. Like, I think they're top 4 LCS minimum. If we get first place, it will be one of the biggest upsets in Europe.
So if we do fail, I will know for sure that it's over.
Welcome to the European Challenger Series Spring Finals, coming to you live from the LCS studio here in Berlin, Germany. We just saw the Challenger Trophy that comes along with a spot in the LCS. We see our fans getting super hyped up as they're in the studio. Origen walking into the building as they have their eyes on that trophy and absolutely want to take that home. And there are the Copenhagen Wolves Academy ready to set up on stage for their very first time here in the studio. And there's someone studying. Who is it? It's Stress and Pulse, of course, getting ready for their debut here on the LCS stage. And our fans are ready. They are excited, as they are every week. Excited to see who will be the newest addition to the LCS. I'm Eva Supporter, joined here on the analyst desk by Martin the Fish Olunga, Trevor Quickshot Henry, and coach of the Unicorns of Love, Fabian Sheepy Malant. And at the end of this day, we will know the team that will get into the LCS and replacing MYM. So I dare say it's quite an exciting day.
It is, and Origen will be the big favorites. However, not everyone here thinks it's going to be a 3-0. I mean, we believe Copenhagen Wolves Academy can do something and at least challenge Origen.
All right, well, let's take a look back and look at the bracket and see exactly how these two teams got here in the Challenger final. Origen, who went 9-1 in the regular season, they beat out Reason Gaming 2-1 in their semifinal, and the Copenhagen Wolves Academy beat Gamers 2-0 as well. Something we do have to touch on: the Copenhagen Wolves Academy were known as the Lowland Lions just 2 weeks ago, then changed the Fisho. What do you think of this pickup?
I think it's very smart for Copenhagen Wolves as an organization. I mean, you get an extra practice partner now between two teams, one in Challenger and one in the LCS. And also, if you look at the Copenhagen Wolves Academy lineup here, there's some very strong names, some fairly new names also to the professional scene, which means if you want to make some replacements or substitutions, you now have a team where you know them really well and they know your playstyle, and you can kind of switch in and out between the two teams. Yeah,
clever decision all around, and that means that the team that wins here could be the Copenhagen Wolves Academy, replace MYM in the LCS, and the other team will go and drop down to the promotion tournament and still have a chance to qualify. Another team that we will see in that promotion tournament is Reason Gaming, because in the third place match yesterday, they beat out Gamers 2-1, which came as quite a surprise to me, at least, Trevor.
Oh, definitely. And I think they really performed well. You know, if you play through the series, Game 1 and Game 2, they swapped back and forth. And Game 3, Reason Gaming were down. They were down 10,000 gold. The biggest surprise was how Gamers 2 were unable to close. It really showed their inability and experience as a team to press their advantage. Now, all credit to Reason Gaming. They also pushed Origen well. They took a game off Origen in the semi-finals. I'm excited to see what they can do because they seem very hungry, as per their winner interview at the end of the match.
Yeah, Sheepy, what is your impression on the fact that everything that happened before the playoffs, it kind of all got turned on its head once the playoff came, and especially Gamers 2 just completely dropping the ball?
Yeah, I think that feels very much like Challenger Series, where teams are stepping up in like a week and then easily turn around matches where you think that they clearly don't have the advantage. And I think that's something history-wise in the Challenger Series where you just see teams coming out ahead.
And now with Reason Gaming winning, we might see them face Rocket, so we get a bit of a Polish battle here, also with Selava facing his old team. I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah. It's going to be exciting, but I think the biggest thing to take away is also the difference between teams performing in the regular best-of-1 group stage and then getting to best-of-3, best-of-5 series, and how different skill sets are truly tested.
Yeah, glad you mentioned it because this is a best-of-5 final, and both teams have requested red side for all the games that they could. Origen was a higher seed, so they have requested red side and are that on game 1, 3, and 5, while the Copenhagen Wolves Academy are blue then on 1, 3, and 5. Of course, Sheepy, the same we noticed when you guys played Gambit in your semi-final. No, that's not yet. In your quarterfinal, they also selected red side. Why is that?
I think right now selecting red side is the safer way to go because you can counterpick one of the solo lanes in general, and this gives you more advantage than having one of those OP picks because it's leaning way more towards those Cinderhawk, really tanky jungler and top laners where you can't really outpick them so hard or have like 2 pickups that are really winning you the game, especially in the jungle with Rek'Sai and Nidalee really strong right now. Sejuani, Gragas coming through as well. So I think this one pick just doesn't matter so much anymore.
No, that really is the big deal because the current meta has so many viable champions and strategies. So yeah, getting 2 picks in the first rotation, at least in my opinion, is very important. And also for Copenhagen Wolves Academy, the reason they pick, obviously, or choose to be on the red side as well, is because you have Morsu in the top lane who's playing these weird picks like... Not really weird anymore, I guess. Fizz has now become a fairly normal top laner, but it used to be one of the reasons. And then you could last pick it. He also plays Fiora, which you obviously don't want to blind pick. So having that last pick for them can be super important if it fits in correct.
Yeah, and something that's also interesting to note is all of these teams that have picked red team up until very recently traditionally have lost. If you go back to World Championship finals picking red side, you go back to Gambit picking last week quarterfinals, yes, it is a viable strategy. However, it has oftentimes resulted in more losses than in victories. So I'm interested to see how it's going to pan out because, again, it is a very, very different meta.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And if you missed any of the crazy picks that have come out in Challenger, because there have been a few, head over to lolesports.com to check out everything, all the VODs, the stats, all the lineups, all the information you need and everything your heart desires. Now, with so much on the line today for either team, we want to hear your thoughts. Tweet at esports and let us know who is your Challenger Series MVP and why. You know the drill. Tweet at esports, but this time include the hashtag EUCS, and we're going to read some of your responses on the analyst desk later today. And if you see any super hot plays coming out of the Challenger teams, tweet it at us as well and use the hashtag Challenger Big Plays for all the action we're going to be seeing today. But now, it is time to turn our attention to this best-of-5 final between the near undefeated Origen and the Copenhagen Wolves Academy. In the regular season, Origen 9-1, 6-4 for the Copenhagen Wolves Academy. But come the semifinals, things kind of got turned upside down for them.
Yeah, I really just want to contrast Origen before. I can't do Origen, the thing you're doing. And contrast their regular performance. They went 9-1 in the round robin, which was fantastic. The only game they dropped was to the Copenhagen Wolves Academy, which is formerly Lowland Lions. And if you contrast their stats in their wins and their losses, they averaged game times of 35 minutes during the round robin. That climbed up to 43 minutes during the course of their semi-final playoff. And something that you noticed while they were playing against Reason Gaming is Origen had some difficult decisions to make in the mid to late game. They were a little bit more lost. They were forced to make team decisions and not simply just win through their sheer power. In contrast, Copenhagen Wolves Academy, they went 6-4 in the regular season. Were not particularly impressive, but they 2-0'd their semi-final, and they just seemed to come alive. This is a squad that a lot of people wrote off before the season began. Stress and Pulse were talking over and over and over. How did Lowland Lions, now Copenhagen Wolves Academy, really step up to the plate?
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see what they can do against Origen because all of the expectations on Origen. Copenhagen Wolves Academy are playing with no weight on their shoulders. No one is expecting them to win.
And that's the important one going into like these games here because you're playing now for your job. And we obviously heard Pekka say beforehand in the feature here how it's so different. Yeah, you're nervous when you go and play World Championships against like OMG or whatever. But this is different because now if you don't win, everything you build up might just collapse completely. So it's different kinds of nerves you have. And Copenhagen Wolves Academy, as you said, nobody expects them to win. Yeah. So they can go in here and just play their own game. They don't have to worry about any expectations from the fans. That's so different for Origen and possibly why they have a harder time making the right calls. And, you know, you can kind of doubt yourself a little bit when it comes to the big calls.
The Copenhagen Wolves Academy might not all be familiar with the lineups either, so let's start by taking a look at the lineup for them as they are on the blue side here in Game 1. The Lowland Lions, now the Copenhagen Wolves Academy, with Morsu, Kire, Kosku, Visility, and Hybrid. And on the red side for Game 1 is Origen, of course, with Soaz, Amazing, Xpeke, Niels, and Mithy. I'm going to keep calling it that.
It's their name. Props to you. I can't do it.
All right. So let's start by dialing in, as we said already, the underdogs, the guys that are playing, I wouldn't say without pressure, but they are kind of free to try it. And if it works out, that's fantastic for them. And the kind of style of team they are, no individual superstars, they kind of remind me of H2K, that they get the job done playing the bigger game.
Yeah, as you said yourself, no superstar, but a lot of players who can step up and carry games if they get one of the right picks. I mean, Morsu is one of my favorite top laners in the Challenger Series because he plays like Fiora, he plays Fizz up there, and he has a big carry compared to Source, who's more defensive and tank top laners. But when it comes to Copenhagen Wolves Academy and the playstyle, it's not win lane, win game. It's more get out of the laning phase and start playing around very smart rotations, the map play, objectives, and so on, which is like H2K in that sense. So if they do manage to win the laning phase here against Origen, I think they're going to take the game because Origen has showed beforehand they don't really perform too well if they don't win the laning phase.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if we look back at the times where they actually won against Origen, that was purely because they came out really ahead in the laning phase, went 7-1 with a really great nightly play by Curry, and just kept small balling, and they just see those advantages and seize them over and over. And I think this might be one of the ways we see them win today.
Well, Sheepy, I compared them a little bit to H2K, but also a little bit to the Unicorns of Love. Also, you guys with that out of Challenger with the crazy picks, and you're still doing it. Do you feel kind of connected to this team? And how much of an advantage does it bring that, okay, they have to ban out Fiora, maybe?
Yeah, I feel really nostalgic if I look back. And you have like Elise jungle, you have top lane Fizz, you have Jax, you have Fiora, and like all those picks are kind of off the wall where you think about, should we really ban that out? And sometimes it's, I don't know, it's like...
If you lose, you tend to ban it the next time because you don't really know what to do.
It's really, really hard. Like, either way you play against this, and in this best of 5 series, it's like something that you can generally go for and say, okay, if we can't contain it, then we start banning it. But maybe they started off from the start, and then you have one ban lifted off from you.
It's also very difficult to decide how you prioritize because you've got this big threat from Morsu up top. You've got Kozku in the mid lane that can perform very well, is doing a lot of assassin bans, exactly, Cassiopeia player, and also from the jungle, like Kyrie. I just want to quickly go back to him. Kyrie rather. His Gragas play in recent weeks has been very good. The meta and the tanks and everything is sort of shifting into his favor. We know that Amazing has played those as well, but we feel Nidalee could be a contested pick. There was a lot of talk about jungle picks, jungle bans, and who's going to get their hands on what.
Yeah, and that must definitely maybe be in their heads for Origen as a ban, because when the Copenhagen Wolves Academy won versus Origen that one game, we had Kyrie on Nidalee doing fantastically well and getting them here as well. And here we see actually a little bit of footage from that, where it wasn't Origen's best game, and just got a lot of kills early with Nidalee and pushed it through, and I don't really think that Origen has that much experience playing from behind.
Very true. And also, they ran Juggermore here, somewhat a Juggermore composition. Whenever they do that, they lose. Because it's not a composition where you necessarily stomp the laning phase, and that's a problem for them. Again, if you look back at the recent gaming in the semifinals, it was weird to see a team with this many experienced players just go Baron like over and over and over. They ran some very mid-game focused compositions where they had to force team fights, but I still felt like there were something lacking for them in terms of the shot calling. We have to see if they fixed it, because obviously they've gone back, watched the games a few times, they had another week to practice, and I'm sure they're more focused on it now, and they have more things in the back than just win laning phase, win game.
Yeah, for Origen, indeed, they will have to, because I feel like with Copenhagen Wolves Academy having no pressure on their shoulders, and if they get a lead, they will just steamroll ahead. They will have to do something, and as we said, Copenhagen Wolves Academy, they played a full map, they're not individual superstars. Origen, of course, has those individual superstars who can get ahead so clean. So why don't they remember, or why don't they have those things still in their backpack from when they played in LCS when it comes to objectives and stuff?
Well, we'll have to find out when they're on the stage, because one of the big things that I feel coming into this matchup in particular, you look at the Origen lineup, 4 of those 5 guys have played on a World Championship stage. 4 of those 5 guys have been to the absolute top tier that you can get in competitive League of Legends. Now they're playing for their jobs, now they're playing for their lives and their careers. Where do they find the balance? And while all of that is going on, my eyes in particular will be watching Niels. I think he's really showed up in the Challenger Series. He's demonstrating an ability to carry. He's got a good champion pool under his belt. And I want to see if he can keep that up now in the highest pressure environment he personally will have faced. Because if he can, that's a very, very good stepping stone, because he has been one of the big carries for the squad.
For sure.
Yeah, Sheepy, that's someone you were also keeping your eye on Niels, and that's also maybe the one that could falter under the pressure.
Yeah, I've heard actually only good things about Niels as far. I think he's a really strong ADC and plays very to the limit of the champion. He has CV and is tanking almost a lot of DPS having the shields on her, and seems to be really comfortable and really confident about the champions. He's always spell sheet up and knows how far he can go, and I hope we can see more of this in this series.
Yeah, definitely keeping an eye on Nils, and some other players will be keeping an eye on is that matchup in the mid lane. A veteran with a ton of professional league experience versus a newcomer looking to prove himself on the big stage. Of course, Origen's FLICKR versus CWA's COSQ. And as said, well, FLICKR, we know what he's worth. We've seen him in LCS, we've done it in the challenger scene, but you always have to ask the question, well, now you have so much on your shoulders, you have to take care of the organization, it's your project, it's your vision, and then COSQ, who's just here, is going, I'm going to play, and I'm going to play my heart out.
Yeah, there's obviously a big difference there between the two players. COSQ, however, is a guy with somewhat power of evil style. You talked about the Cassiopeia, some different picks for him, but he can also play the standard assassins. He is one of the big carries on the team when he gets rolling, often from some jungle help as well. I think the matchup itself will, of course, be in favor of FLICKR, but not like we're talking, oh, he's going to solo kill him or anything. I think it's fairly close in that regard, and we're just going to have to see how Origen as a team plays around COSQ, because he has shown if he gets a lead, he can snowball the game for his team.
And that's actually a thing I really like about COSQ, because he's playing Cassiopeia, which is like the biggest sustained DPS you have in Magic damage.
And big surprise, you like it.
Yeah. Of course. I hope they play Yorick as well, but we will see in the series.
We don't.
No, probably not. Then you have like Xerath, which is long-range poke and like follow-up DPS, and then you have something like LeBlanc, which is like instant kill and burst. And so you have a really big champion diversity, which you can use for a lot of different strategies. So if he's playing today really well, we can expect maybe a lot of different comps coming out from Copenhagen Wolves Academy.
Yeah, well, we've speculated a lot. I think it's about time that we get into the game. But before we head over to the caster desk for Game 1, we'll hear what it's like to not only be the man in the mid lane, but the mastermind behind the scenes as well.
Before I was just a player, now I'm a player, and at the same time I'm the owner of Origen, which makes it a bit difficult in many situations, because of course I have to make sure, even though I have people helping me to run the organization, I have to make sure if there is any trouble, I make sure it's fixed ASAP.
If you want to be a player and a manager, you obviously have to make sacrifices in some kind of way. But I don't think that right now FLICKR is doing any sacrifices as a player. Therefore, like, as long as you have your helpers coming in, like people around the team, like having you organize stuff and basically helping you out, like I think it's okay.
I'm capable of knowing what you need to have in the organization. I know what the players want, and it's just about always keeping them happy and making sure that there is no conflict between them and no conflict between you and them. Like, you just gotta be clear with them of what you want from them and what they want from you. And if you have that completely clear, I don't see any reason why there would be any misunderstanding or any drama there.
Over the past few weeks, he has really shown like what I thought of him. Like, basically it's true that he's a leader. He's trying to be someone that is basically creating infrastructure and trying to be the best player that he can be while being the best leader he can be.
Well, it's fantastic to see how much FLICKR has grown as a player. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Richard Polskamp, alongside my partner in crime, James Stress O'Leary. And one of these teams behind us today is about to walk away with a spot in the League of Legends Championship Series Spring Split.
Yeah, I mean, they've been playing for this for the entire split long. All of the Spring Split has been leading up to this for these two teams. It's a very different sense between these two teams as well. You got Origen, the team everybody thought was going to be in the grand finals, going up against Lowland Lions, who everybody thought was going to be 5th and 6th in the group stage and not even be in the playoffs. And they've done a magnificent job, and both teams are looking on top form coming into this finals.
Yeah, I mean, it really is the true underdog story of the, well, Lowland Lions, who are now Copenhagen Wolves Academy, the team who no one really expected anything of. They come into this one against, well, basically a team everyone touted to be an LCS team. We'll see how this one goes. We are going to head into Champion Select and get all of this started. Our first game of this best of 5 between these two teams, and see where the bans are going to be headed, Stress. And, well, typically when you're against the Copenhagen Wolves Academy, most of those bans go towards Morsu. We'll see if Origen follow the same suit.
Yeah, we will see that, but there's been a lot of bans that have come out from the last week or so. The Vladimir ban is one straight towards FLICKR. We saw that in both games, or in 2 games in their series against Reason Gaming. I'm expecting the last one to be an Aurelia ban. It's been banned in 7 of the 12 games that the Copenhagen Wolves Academy have played in, but around the board, a lot of bans at that top lane.
Yeah, we've seen the Jax ban coming through along with Malphite, Lulu, and Fresh that aim towards Hybrid. Hybrid was actually one of the key factors that got them rolling last time they beat Origen, so they're going to be taking that away from Hybrid, making sure that Miffy doesn't get hooked in that bottom lane. And of course, they do take away the Jax away from Morsu, but that does leave his Aurelia open if he wants it. We'll see what he goes for.
Yeah, what does that leave open? If they do pick Aurelia here, the Hecarim would be a potential pickup for Origen, so there is still a lot available for the Copenhagen Wolves Academy. They've been a team less likely to just pick something for flex, but the likes of Alessandra or Morgana would be available here. One champion that the Lowland Lions, or Copenhagen Wolves Academy, if you'll excuse me for a second, have prioritized is their jungle. And it won't be a jungle.
It's going to be Nidalee. Yeah, that goes straight on to Kairi. Again, another one of the picks that they had against Origen in their victory. And, well, we've seen it so many times on Kairi. He does like those kind of transform champions, the Alizas, the Nidalees. He'll be taking this one right into the grill of Origen.
We may very well see a double tank comp here with the Maokai and the Gragas. That is two champions that Origen have played a lot over the last couple of weeks, especially. Amazing really has been favoring Gragas out of the jungle. And now with Nidalee gone, his options would be Sejuani, Rek'Sai, or that Gragas pick, as that is pretty much what Amazing has us favored all around.
Yeah, and he is hovering over the Rek'Sai right now. I mean, I would expect him to do that. He's typically a more carry-orientated jungler. That's how they like to do it. In fact, as they mentioned on the analyst desk, and as we've been saying through the whole season, they're a team of 5 carries, and Sowers will be taking his Maokai, which is a little counterintuitive when I say that, but still, those are the champions he likes to go for.
So I'm wondering now whether Amazing is going to go for his old build path of the Warrior enchant on Rek'Sai, or what we've seen over the last week or so, which is the Cinder Hulk Rek'Sai start coming in. They could still end up with a fairly tanky front line here with the Maokai and the Rek'Sai, but you don't sacrifice so much of the early pressure as you do with a lot of the other Cinder Hulk junglers. So this could potentially be a good 2 pickups for Origen, but as you already alluded to, Kairi on this Nidalee last time ended up with 4 kills before 5 minutes. If Origen aren't careful of that, that could happen again.
Yeah, interested to see where the Wolves go from here, though. Stress, they hover over the Corki, and in 11 out of the 12 games, they've gone for either Corki or Graves on visibility. Yep. So a little one-dimensional in that fact. They have one severe game, and they pick up the Aurelia for Morsu. That hasn't been banned, why not pick it? They're on pretty comfort champions right now.
Yeah, they are, and the Corki is actually the most contested AD carry in this matchup. Both AD carries have 6 games on Corki. Fast lock-ins from Origen.
Yeah, we see the Annie coming out for Miffy, along with the Sivir for Niels. Niels has had so much AD carry champions diversity through the split.
And Miffy, as a support player, has been pretty comfortable when it comes to these engaged supports like an Annie. We've seen him a lot on the Annie. We also saw him on Veigar, hitting that event horizon and, you know, just snowballing a fight from there. So Miffy is defaulting back to that. On the other side of the map, Hybrid, as the support player for the Copenhagen Wolves Academy, has actually only played 3 support champions. Now Thresh isn't available. His 2 previously played champions are Janna and Braum. We'll see whether he does in fact go for one of those.
Well, he's flip-flopping at the moment, but Kozq, he likes pretty much anything. He doesn't just go for one particular style. Could see him on Ahri, could see him even on a Xerath, depending on what they want in this composition. But I would expect the Ahri here because of how much basically they have the pick already from Aurelia. They lock it in. They also lock the Braum in. So we have the full composition so far from Wolves.
And from the Wolves so far, they've got a pretty clear spike when it comes to the amount of damage. You've got 2 Triforce champions in Aurelia and Corki. Now you've got an Ahri and a Braum to set up fights. It's only really the Nidalee that is going to suffer a fair amount in the mid-game. So Origen have to play around this power spike that Copenhagen Wolves have just built for themselves, because that's going to be tough once, as we said, Corki and Aurelia start going.
Well, a LeBlanc would give them some more punch when it comes to the mid-game, but they already have the Rek'Sai. Amazing going to be trying to get those early kills from the jungle. I feel like the jungle is going to be very explosive. Both of these junglers like to get into the opposing jungle and try and mess up the opposing jungler. So we'll see how that one goes. But Origen are really thinking about their final pick for XPeke. And that will be going up against the Ahri. If they do decide to lock in the LeBlanc, it will be a skill matchup in the mid lane.
It will, and it's a matchup that Peke hasn't really had his hands on very much, because in 7 of the 13 games played for Origen, LeBlanc has been banned. And in this game, it's found its way all the way around to the last pick, and it has been locked in by Origen. They favor this heavy AP style as well, but look at the mobility here that's coming out from the Origen lineup as a whole. Sivir, when she pops her ultimate, LeBlanc, Annie, Maokai, Rek'Sai, they're all going to get into the Copenhagen Wolves backline here, and they've got to be careful that Copenhagen Wolves don't get caught out.
Yeah, there's a lot sitting on Hybrid's shoulders to hit that Glacial Fissure and manage to push everyone away. Amazing also with his ultimate, he'll be able to get across the map and gank these lanes. The early game for me feels to be where a lot of this is going to go down.
Yeah.
Copenhagen Wolves Academy, when they've typically gotten ahead, is from the early game, and then they just out-pressure their opponents in mid-game just by virtue of being so far ahead.
Yeah, that pretty much is exactly how the Copenhagen Wolves Academy have got their wins and got the lead. But Origen, what they've done consistently is win lane, win the game. That is what Origen have been known for, and if Copenhagen Wolves can't take the laning phase away from Origen, they could end up falling behind, and that's a tough spot to be in against a team like Origen.
Yeah, yes, indeed. It will be a very difficult match for both the teams. I was talking to you before the match and about how this series is going to go and how the first game is going to be very telling of how the rest of the series will run.
Yeah, it really will be telling.
Yeah, so as we load into game one of this best of 5, let us know who you think has the edge by tweeting at LOL eSports with the hashtag CWA win or OG win. I will be checking back with you in just a minute, but what's for certain, Stress, is we're getting into this one, and this is going to be so incredibly hype as we get into this game 1 between Origen and Copenhagen Wolves Academy.
And this is it. One of these two teams will find themselves in the summer split of the LCS. So will we see any crazy stuff to begin? Last week when Origen were playing, we actually found ourselves in a 5v5 level 1 fight. So will we see anything similar? Not this time, because the Copenhagen Wolves have split themselves across the map.
Yeah, we just see the standard fan play from Copenhagen Wolves here. Cairo will be heading into the top side of the map, but he should be seeing Soaz crowd on a sapling. There comes the spear across as well, just taking the bush. They have a good read of where Origen are at this stage. Origen all sitting in this top bush though. He may be going for a late invade onto this game.
Yeah, no deep wards out yet from either team, so either they're going to have to go for a blind swap here or we're looking for standard lanes. But the fact that Origen have grouped up here looks like they want to at least try and find out where Kyrie is, starting to deny him pressure on that first buff and then get themselves to lane. But Soaz, he's very comfortable on this Maokai. He's been playing Maokai as one of his top champions in the Challenger Series, so I'm expecting to see a fairly standard start out of him. Yep, he's going to start on the Raptors and then teleport, whether it be top or bottom. Looks like it'll be bottom at this rate.
Yeah, they do have Niels and Miffy looking for the lane swap. It's a little interesting as they are facing down Corki and Braum. Usually do see, if anyone's initiating the lane swap, it does tend to be Corki, but they are looking to potentially invade here. So they will have the extra advantage of the support invading with Amazing as they move in here, try and upset Kyrie as he is starting on the top side of the map. So this would be a very nice start to the game if they manage to triple buff him. Amazing and Miffy coming in, will receive a spear. He does have that stun charged up from Pyromania. And Kyrie no longer has the vision over his own jungle. They will be starting on top of his Gromp.
This is a really tough start for Kyrie here. He's got to tread carefully because if he gets stunned here, Miffy and Amazing have enough damage to take him out or at least burn their flash here. But Kyrie's going to try and steal away the Gromp. He can't get it with that spear, and now he ends up at half health, level 1. No impact yet on this game.
Yeah, no one is there to help him because Morsu was taking the jungle trying to get that level 2 ready for the teleport just like Soaz, but they didn't go for the lane swap up, so it will be the bot lane now pushing from Wolves.
Yeah, and it's not only the bot lane where there's action because Soaz looking for this middle lane. This is something we saw in a couple of games yesterday, this very early
Oh, the flash, and there's the Twisted Advance as well. Pecky follows up with the distortion, doesn't land the chains though. So they won't be picking up that kill. And that's a flash down from Soaz, but they got it and traded it for Coscutes.
Yeah, flash for flash in the middle lane. Amazing now secures the crab on the top side of the jungle. Means that pretty much Origen have full control over 3/4 of the map. It is only this red buff side for the Copenhagen Wolves Academy that they can safely go into right now for the next few minutes. So Kyrie has to play this out very carefully with Morsu, and you can see even Morsu sidestepping so that Kyrie gets as much experience from that red buff as possible.
Yeah, well, it's a question of whether Kyrie will decide to invade into the opposing jungle now, because he has, if he doesn't, he'll get triple buffed. Morsu now heading up there. They have the duo lane, of course. Morsu is not choosing to go top lane, so if they are going to make a power play, it will be right now. Amazing has gone to that area alongside Miffy. And and he does see them with the tremor sense, but he doesn't know how many members are around that corner. It happens to be 2 as they're walking on top of each other. Miffy again has that stun charged up, only level 1 though, and the pressure is being exerted by the bottom lane. This is good movement by Copenhagen Wolves, but they don't choose to go for that buff.
They have to back away because Soaz just hit level 3. It's so important when you're diving a Maokai that he doesn't have all of his abilities available just because of how much crowd control he offers in that situation. And quite frankly, the 4 versus 3 in that situation was not a done deal for Copenhagen Wolves Academy. So they have to back away, and now Kyrie sacrifices any opportunity that he would have at this blue buff. He'd be looking for a Miracle Spear here, which is why they dropped the ward. Hybrid's going to come up and run Body Blocker, but they turn for the Crab instead.
Yeah, Kyrie knows that's not going to fight back and will be smiting it down. Amazing. Actually chooses not to finish off the blue buff. Knows that the pressure is still going to be kept up by Hybrid, so he'll go towards the Wolves first. Interesting play whether he'll go straight back to that. But still, a lot of action in this early game. Lots of movement from both of the teams. Now Visibility sitting in that one-on-one against Soaz. Now with his support heading in there as well. He's actually trailing behind Farm currently over his counterpart. On taking a look at the very first back from Amazing, he's actually picked up the longsword here, so he's going right for the Warrior enchant, actually opting away from the Cinderhawk.
Yeah, exactly, and as I was saying, there's the 2 build paths still on Rexley. The older build path of Warrior, which gives him more damage, which if he goes in on this gank, no flash on Kozuki.
He's gonna have a lot of damage though, comes out with the knockup as well. Xpeke knows he doesn't have flash, that's first blood, goes over to Origen.
Great time gank there in the middle lane out of Origen. Amazing with this early game jungler is able to get in behind the already no flash Ahri without Ahri getting level 6 is a really good timing. And now they're looking to turn their attention up towards the top lane perhaps. This is going to be 4 people here from Origen looking to dive on top of an Aurelia who this early into the game has to back away from this tower.
Wow.
Morsu's in so much trouble.
He didn't even decide to back off, he just didn't have the clarity, and now there's 4 people on top of him. Make that the 2nd kill for Origen.
2 in the bag already, and Kyrie cannot do anything at this situation. Nidalee is just not able to survive this amount of pressure across the map this early on from Origen. Origen have played this map so well to begin with, but what can Copenhagen Wolves do to respond to this? We already talked about once they hit their double Trinity Force, that is going to be their time to fight. The problem is they're behind in all of their lanes so far, and that means Origen can just smother them for the next few minutes.
Yeah, and Origen's victories typically have just been from the laning phase. It's get ahead with our carry laners, know that we're better than our opponent, and just push that into a victory. It's really when they've been forced to make decisions is where they've faltered. And if they're again ahead in this game, which is looking like, then they'll be able to use that victory condition.
And this is a good map movement here out of the Copenhagen Wolves Academy. They're going to turn their attention to Dragon while this top tower falls in favor of Origen. Now that top tower could come back to bite Origen quite spectacularly if they don't shut down the split pusher of Morsu. That is something Morsu will do in every single game, is get free farm and split push his way through the game. So Origen need to make sure that Morsu is kept busy and doesn't just sit in lane for the next 15 minutes, getting himself up to a very scary Aurelia.
Well, that was a nice move out of the Copenhagen Wolves Academy, able to take away that first Dragon Denier from Origen, so they won't be fighting over that anytime soon. Amazing now level 5, has still not gone back to base, so he's still sitting on a fair chunk of gold. And then Kozuki in this mid lane will have flash in a couple seconds, so
and is now level 6.
Out. He's got the Spirit Rush, and Amazing takes this this signal to go back to base. He sees Kyrie with the Tremor Sense, turns around the Queen's Wrath, follows up with some more damage. We'll be heading over the wall of the tunnels and slunking back into his own jungle.
So last time these two played, in the first game, Kyrie was already 4-0 by this point in the game and already had snowballed a lead for the Lowland Lions. This time, it's Amazing that's got himself out on the map, and he has 2 assists to his name. Will pick up that Stalker's Blade as well. Very close to getting that Warrior enchant. And Amazing is going to become very difficult to deal with here because Kyrie is always going to be behind. And somehow Copenhagen Wolves are going to have to try and pressure out towers and objectives using spears when Kyrie just doesn't have the damage. And speaking of damage, Morsu takes a lot of damage from Soaz.
Yeah, Soaz pings or dings at level 6 and will get his ultimate eventual Maelstrom. He was able to just out-harass Morsu, who doesn't have his Transcendent Blades yet to return the damage. Should have that in a couple minions' time. Meanwhile, Peke will be going over to his blue buff and solving some of those mana issues he's having currently. Amazing will be donating that over.
Kyrie now up in the top side of the map, not really going to do too much up against a Maokai this early on, and Maokai still has Flash available and Teleport, so I expect Soaz to make his presence felt. next time Origen are pushing an objective, but it's amazing now sensing that Kyrie was in the top side of the map. He's going to clear out some wards, has to be careful of COSQ, but will spot him out on the Tremor Sense and tunnel his way back out of the enemy jungle.
Yeah, the Wolves do maintain vision over that area as they do ward it. Peke with the 1-2 with the sigils will chunk COSQ a little bit, pops a biscuit in response. Amazing goes back into the jungle. He's gonna get this vision whether they like it or not.
And Origen are actually putting a lot of gold into their vision game right now already in this game. You take a look at the support itemization. Mythy already opting for the mobility boots tells us that Mythy wants to get himself roaming and out on the map. On the other side, Hybrid, very standard, going towards that Sightstone, but it's Origen still coming out ahead in mid lane. Peke's got a lot of damage on COSQ.
Comes out with the chains, follows up with the sigil, doesn't have the damage to follow up, as Amazing did come off from the side as he was in the battle to death over wards. He was fighting his own battles. Top lane though, Morsu has continued to be pushed out, and Soaz is just continuing to pressure him. Taking a look at his item build now, has gone for the makings of a Righteous Glory. It could be the next item for him. Meanwhile, Amazing is still in the enemy jungle. We talked about this before. Xpeke now comes in from the mid lane. There's the teleport from Soaz. He has his flash once again. There's the kill from COSQ, or onto COSQ rather, as he backs off. That was a 1-to-1 onto the jungle layers, and COSQ will tick down from the Ignite. Make that a 2-for-1 for Origen.
2 ignites, 2 kills. Amazing tried to burrow himself to get that the passive health regeneration as you're in tunneled form on Rek'Sai, but couldn't quite get it in time and did end up falling. So a little bit unfortunate, but overall Origen still come out ahead. We talked about the teleport timing from Soaz being available. He definitely gets himself into that fight and turns that one just around to make sure that Origen take the most of that. But Copenhagen Wolves from that fight, they'll be happy that they got some gold. Ooh, but it's an ultimate.
Out. Yeah, completely whisked though, right between the goalposts. Dazilisi follows up with the damage, gets the big one out onto Miffy to pop his own Molten Shield to mitigate a couple hits of that damage, but still, they do gain a little control over this lane as Hybrid will buy him some time to go back to base and pick up a couple items. We'll go for mostly consumables alongside that pair of boots. Now Amazing level 6, he is in the jungle, creating that network of tunnels. See if he can get around the map. But we were talking about this in Champion Select, how Amazing will just be sitting in the opposing jungle. But both of these junglers like to do that. They like to get ahead of their opposing jungler. It's Amazing who's getting the better of Kyrie in this one.
Yeah, Amazing certainly is getting the better, and it's only going to get worse as this game continues. And speaking back as this composition from Origen has a lot of mobility, the Righteous Glory that Soaz is looking to pick up is just going to help that even more. You pop the Sivir ult, now you've got a Righteous Glory on top of it. In theory, Copenhagen Wolves Academy should never be able to get away. They don't really have much disengage past that Roam ultimate, but Soaz is already fairly tanky. Does have to watch out though, because Kyrie was around. And this middle lane is going heavily in favor of Xpeke, and it looks like we're seeing why LeBlanc has been banned in 7 of the 12 games.
Yeah, this game pretty much stressed. He is 2-0-1 right now. Has gone for the Athenes build, actually. Athenes was buffed in this patch, so see a lot of mid lanes going back into that route, whereas COSQ maybe doing the same. He's got a little bit of magic resist for himself. Depends whether he wants to go for the Morello. We've seen a lot of Aries actually go for Ludens first for that early power spike, but he's not really been snowballing his lane, so it may not be the case in this one.
Yeah, COSQ's feeling the pain. He does not have the money to buy such an expensive item. That needlessly large rod first buy is what normally you'd see on an Ahri that's going Ludens, but far too expensive for this game. Already 2 kills on the board for COSQ. Chains aren't going to lock down, and Kyrie was there anyway, but certainly Peke is causing a lot of problems for COSQ, and Peke's going to be able to roam fairly soon as well. That Athenes, the mana regeneration, means he can just constantly clear the wave, constantly push out and look to roam, and there's nothing that COSQ can really do to stop it for now.
Right now, Origen do seize the opportunity to go for this dragon. It will be their first of the game, the second in total. And the whole team is converging around this area. All Hybrid can do is queue over the wall and just hope it was the right time. It will be Amazing securing the dragon, taking their first of the game here. Currently 4-1. And 1 tower advantage. They have picked up the early game lead, 1,000, or rather 2,600 gold ahead. Stay away from maps. COSQ with the charm over the wall will get a little harass onto Soaz as he moves back to his lane.
For the most part, Origen are ahead in the lanes. Apart from Morsu has now been able to pick up a lot of farm here. Soaz teleported out of lane, got himself a kill elsewhere on the map. actually Niels right now that is having a very quiet game, but saying that he sat on over 2,500 gold right now. That's an immense amount to be sat on in lane while you're going toe-to-toe. And the reason is he's got the BF sword to just the phage from Corki here, and it means he can just sit in the lane, push the lane out, and Mithy is always going to be able to defend Niels in this situation. They've got Spell Shield, they've got stuns. There's not a lot that Copenhagen Wolves Academy can do right now without Kyrie turning his attention to the bottom lane, but that's just not going to happen because of how the rest of the map is going.
Yeah, Niels' constant pressure is very annoying to deal with for Facility. He'll be trying to wait until he can get that Triforce and start playing around their power spikes, as you mentioned before in the pre-game. Amazing now, moving into the bottom jungle. Did use his ultimate to get into the bottom side of the map. Will be using a sweeper to take away this ward, so they know he's in the bottom side of the jungle. So they are safe for the foreseeable future, or maybe not, as Hybrid is wandering into this tri-bush. And Miffy is ready in wait and does have his Pyromania stacked. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, CosQ is continuing to farm, now sitting around 20 CS behind. Peke again with the combo, lands the Ethereal Chains. Doesn't pick up the kill, but is a decent amount of harass. Plus he's got the Ignite and the Flash. There's a CosQ within killing range for Peke.
Yeah, you do not want to be CosQ in this matchup right now. It is so difficult. Here comes the ult.
This is not good for Hybrid. He explodes in an instant. However, the return damage from the tower and Facility's burst may be enough to take down Amazing. That's actually going to be a no there, as Kyrie does fill in the blanks, takes away this tunnel. Another nice clean kill for Origen.
And Morsu has found himself in the middle lane now, just getting farmed. This is what Morsu does. Bottom lane isn't done yet.
There's the flash, there's the spear. Doesn't quite land and turns around with the disintegrate. The teleport from Soaz. How much damage can he deal? He comes out with a twisted advance, locks him down. Just a matter of how clean this is going to be with the double pounce. Almost takes out Niels, but both of the bot laners from Origen survive scot-free.
Another teleport usage out of Soaz and another involvement in a kill. Flash from Morsu.
Peke will be jumping away, has the distortion pad. CosQ is going to be camping it. Comes away with the spear rush. Dips and dives under the tower. Almost had a repeat of week one. That was not what I wanted to say.
That was an interesting way for Peke to go back into that tower there. He'd already dodged the charm, so thought he was safe enough to get himself around the backside. But overall, Copenhagen Wolves Academy still showing that they do have fangs right now. Origen can't take this lightly because there's still time for Copenhagen Wolves to stay in this game. Trinity Force completed onto Corki. Morsu is a fair amount of the way there himself as well. So Origen have to respect that power spike from Irelia and Corki.
Yeah, this is one of the points in the game where it's going to be most scary for Origen, so they just need to be a little cleaner. I feel like I've seen this before. Amazing, taking away the vision from this bush around the blue buff, or rather the red buff. And we will be heading back into the Dragon Pit, now heading towards mid lane. He has it pinked, so he knows it's not warded from CosQ. He's not really in range to get too much done. Of course, there's the flash though, right from Miffy, and the knock-up as well. That was just so incredibly well worked from Origen.
It's exactly what they needed to do after that messy period of play. You get a very clean kill, you take a turret, and now you reset yourselves. Look for other objectives. Now, they have to stop Morsu from free farming for a while. Again, he's way up in CS on Soaz, and he started this game off fairly badly. Hybrid's a little bit caught out there, but Kyrie, ooh!
Oh, there's the arcane smash right into his team. A little bit more damage from Niels will be enough to finish him off. Hybrid is one auto away from death himself. Just constant auto with it. There's the Prey Seeker from downtown. Amazing comes up big.
This is the other option they can do, is wait for Copenhagen Wolves Academy to outplay themselves in this middle lane by coming forward. And this high mobility composition that you can just run at people and get kills just allows them to now pressure out another turret. And Copenhagen Wolves just found themselves in a very odd position there as the rest of Origen just kind of tumbled on top of them and picked up kills.
Yeah, well, I asked which Origen is going to appear today. It seems like it's the one who's going to dominate. 9-2 currently, 6,000 gold ahead before the 20-minute mark. Origen have such a significant lead. Amazing. Will be signaling the farm alarm and going into his jungle, taking away these Merc Wolves. Taking a look at some of the items now completed by Origen, as they did all go back to base. Of course, the Athenes, as we mentioned earlier, is now the Neasly Large Rod onto that Peke, so he has a lot of damage. Hybrid is trying desperately to clear out the tunnels. In the bot lane, it is Niels with his Infinity Edge, looking towards the Static Shiv as well. Top lane with the Righteous Glory completed. Turret in that last fight, just able to get on top of Kyrie before he could even react.
There's just almost no time to react with this kind of composition when you've got a press ult and run at people comp. Funnily enough, this is actually the same style that the old team Sparta used to run in Challenger, which was you just get high mobility and just run at people and try and get kills. It's a very, it's a fairly simple strat in theory, but the execution can become very messy. So Origen have looked very clean doing this. They've looked like a far better team than any other team that's really done this kind of composition, but generally Origen have been playing fairly composed in this game, and that's exactly what they needed to do, and that's exactly what this kind of experience on a big stage will do for players that are on Origen.
Yeah, well, they've always typically performed on show days compared to the Tuesday games, so something about just people watching them turns it on for Origen. Whereas the Wolves, they are new to this offline environment. Origen talking about them, they are on the second Dragon for them. So will be going down, nice easy take. The Wolves aren't able to react to it. Now Origen, they have the whole area pinked, so how much can they take away from this? Can they jump on top of someone? Not quite yet. Q does have his flash and his Spirit Rush. Visibility is also fairly mobile, but Peke will say, I'm a little bit more mobile than all of you put together with the Distort over the wall here, trying to get a pick in the jungle.
And Peke has so much damage right now when there's not a lot of magic resist on the side of the Wolves Academy. Peke's even bought himself a Sorcerer's Elixir here, or Elixir of Sorcery. And that just means every single time he hits somebody with an ability, he is just going to be dealing so much damage. And Wolves Academy need to try and avoid that as best as they can. Amazing comes across the map to try and defend mid-turret, but this is the Wolves grouping up. Now that they've got this power spike with a 2 Trinity Force, they will use it and get themselves their second tower of the game.
Yeah, so that goes down. They are catching up in terms of towers, trying to stabilize the bleeding that is happening in this game, but the Wolves do not look too phased. However, that is a split pushing Peke, and someone has to deal with it. It's going to be Morsu who's stepping up to the plate here. Tower is dropping awfully low though, down to about a quarter HP as Morsu now comes in to clean up the scraps. So they always need someone to deal with him, and luckily Morsu does have the teleport. Also means though that Peke could be caught off guard, or at least the rest of the team if he carries on doing the 4-1.
Question from Morsu is, are those Mercury Treads enough to just tank a full combo from a LeBlanc at this stage in the game?
I don't think he wants to test the theory.
No, exactly. I don't think he wants to test it either, which is why he didn't push out any further. But an interesting point about Morsu is typically at the end of the game, because of how much he split pushes, he ends about 40 CS to 50 CS up on his lane opponent. And take a look at the farm lead right now. It's hovering around that 40 mark already because of how much Morsu is trying to split push. And honestly, it's been one of the key factors for the Copenhagen Wolves Academy as they've kept themselves in games. It has even won games for them when they've been behind. Yeah. In the last time these two played, Origen had a lead. It was about this big, and Morsu managed to split push 2 inhibitors and expose the third just before Origen won the game. It was a very close call, but we may be in for that for round 2.
Maybe, and Morsu, just like clockwork, as you mentioned, is ahead in CS. It will just allow him to split push against pretty much anyone who isn't named Xpeke right now. He's sitting on 200 CS. In fact, that's fairly impressive for a LeBlanc who's also been murdering people. Now taking away this red buff, lots of skill shots come through from the Wolves. Not going to be enough to secure their own red, however. Continuing to push up the middle lane, do have the carries in the sides. Looks like Origen's going to seize this opportunity. They do pop the on the hunt. Well, there's a good disengage from the Wolves.
Good disengage, but they've used a lot of their, they haven't used a lot of their disengage tools, but they've used up a lot of their presence in this lower jungle now, having to disengage. They've foregone a lot of the map control here for Origen. They've got a lot of this lower side jungle completely warded, but the Wolves are actually just going to take to the mid lane. They're going to say, we don't care what you do on the bottom side. Peke is really the only one around mid lane that can look to stop anything. Has he got Q? Amazing's going to ultimate back to try and save the tower, but this is going to be a 4 versus 2 at best before Soaz gets himself there with a teleport. Looks like it's going to be turret for turret trade, but Niels is on the inhibitor turret already.
Well, this could be dangerous for the Wolves. They need to send someone to stop him. It's going to be Morsu who's coming across. He's actually just going back to base rather than using his teleport. How much damage can he deal against the turret? Well, the minion wave has dissipated, so he takes it fairly low. Meanwhile, Origen on the hunt to try and jump on top of the retreating Wolves. They do not quite get in range. And after all of that, yes, the Wolves managed to take away a turret, but the damage that was dealt in the bottom side of the map, was it worth it?
Inner turret for inner turret, plus some damage on the inhibitor. So on the inhibitor turret, it's going to depend on how long it is until Origen can actually look to push the bottom lane again. I don't hazard they'll go there because of the big wave in the top side of the map. it actually now pays off that Morsu held onto his teleport. It's a very greedy play, but he was banking on Niels not being able to do enough damage to the turret before the minions were all gone in that lane. So now both top laners have their teleports available. Niels is going to sort out the top side of the map. What can Copenhagen Wolves Academy get from this? Dragon up in 130, they need to establish control and take a few of the tunnels out from the map, away from Amazing.
Yeah, half and half in his own jungle, half and half in the opposing jungle. They can't just let him ult wherever they want to.
That's really interesting that you'd send both Soaz and Niels up on that side, because basically this tells the Copenhagen Wolves that there's nobody in their own jungle. They can now freely de-ward, now that they've seen both AD carry and top lane. There is no pressure on the Wolves at all. So Origen just completely have given away any kind of dragon control they would have had with a dragon coming up in 1 minute. Morsu's now splitting the bot turret. That will release a lot of pressure on the Wolves as well. And this is the kind of map movement that the Copenhagen Wolves have been doing week after week and just getting these little towers, little objectives to get themselves back in the game.
However, Origen are closing in from the sidelines. They may find Kyrie in retreat. The spear comes out. Miffy trying to get in lane. Will be using that speed bust shrine. There's the on the hunt as well, gets the heal down, there's the ignite, will be jumping over the wall, have a Tibbers to follow up as well. There's the kill onto the retreating Nidalee. Morsu will be using the teleport to get away. Can Amazing get the knock of a time? Yes, he can! And he'll be walking the dog, trying to kill this Irelia. They just need to get in range now. There's the flash from Niels just to secure the kill, making sure Morsu does not execute. But he's wasting the time of 4 players. Now he jumps in, now he tries to get the damage onto Peke. Not going to be quite enough. Meanwhile, Hybrid and Facility, that bot lane AD carry duo, kind of head through the map, see what they can do. And the answer is not all that much. So again, Origen catch them as they are moving away from their objective. Meanwhile, Soaz, we find CosQ in the top side. Great juke away from the charm. Will be mitigating a bit of that damage, and CosQ uses his ultimate. I'm not sure how much he can do against Soaz. He jumps underneath the turret, it's a little bit scary. There comes the Arcane Smash as well into the turret, takes one more tower shot. Amazing now comes into the top side of the map. Hybrid with the shield block as well. He'll go right underneath it. He'll take down the Ari regardless, and Soaz would be getting all of his health back with the Sap Magic. Now looking for another knockup. It's just a matter of time before the Queen of the Xerxai picks up Braum. It does not matter how big your heart is, she will eventually catch up to you, or not. Have a winter's bite.
Yeah, not quite enough damage out of Amazing. But at this point, this has devolved into a very scrappy game out of the Copenhagen Wolves Academy. They've forgone a lot of their control, and this is a bold play out of Origen, but they know that CosQ is not available yet. No teleport for Morsu, no wards around here for CWA either. So unless somebody's going to go and check that sometime soon, it's not really that possible. But look at the Copenhagen Wolves converging here. They now know that something is up. Can they get here in time? It's going to require a steal from Kyrie. Flash Tibbers!
The flash from Tibbers, though, and will be getting the stun down. Morsu now in the pit, but he's not the one with the smite. Kyrie is the one retreating. Peke is hot in pursuit, however. There's the stall. There's 1, there's 2, there's the kill. Hybrid now as well with the lockdown. 3 and 0, double kill for Peke. Comes out way ahead in that trade, plus the Baron going over to Origen. How convincing can this get?
Big plays out of Origen. They're not suffering the same fate as they suffered in their semi-final game, where they just tried Baron time and time again. This time it was no, we're going for it, teleport in. They can't stop us right now. And Origen are looking on top form right now, 15 kills to 2. This has fallen a little bit too far out of the Copenhagen Wolves' grasp for this game.
Yeah, it's certainly getting there. Stress getting onto the horizon of 10k in this game. Middle tower is being sieged in as the Prey Seeker coming across a little more poke. Peke with the 1-2 again with the ultimate charge. CosQ uses his own ultimate in response. There's the chains connecting. Another Winter's Bite follows through with the charm, lands onto Peke, looking for more. Kyrie jumps into the front lines. He's not a tank though, he's a cat and he goes down. Facility and Morsu backing away from the fight. They lose their jungler, but Origen are fairly chunked, and they have a big amount of gold that they want to be spending. They also ping the bottom lane. They know the ways of pushing. They go back to base with the enhanced recalls.
Yeah, no need to force that inhibitor tower. As you can see, they got caught out by a charm there, but going all the way back to this Baron fight, this is just Mithy knowing exactly what he has to do here. He has to stop Kyrie at all costs. Easy double stun on Kyrie and Hybrid, and Peke, look at the damage he's got already in from the side. Corki is nowhere near this fight either, and the rest of Origen are just easily taking down the Baron, and this is Origen just having full control at this point in the game.
Yeah, really just pushing their advantage. It will become increasingly difficult, if it's not already difficult enough for the Wolves to get back into this. They do have those Trinity Forces, they do have the Blades of the Ruin Kings to try and chunk through Soaz extremely tanky frontline, but so far he hasn't even died in this game. He's 1-0 and 10. The entire scoreboard of Origen is pretty much exactly how you'd want it if you were just literally writing down the stats in this game. Now, they will move on to this bottom inhibitor as well. It's getting to the point where they need to start thinking about this second game from the Wolves. Origen lose their second inhib.
Wolves are just trying to get anything from this game now. They know Origen have only got a few people here in this middle lane, so they've got a turret in the top side. Corki and Braum were trying to push the middle inhibitor, but now they're going to be boxed in. They're going to have to split here because there's a lot of people from Origen already making their way in, although Soaz hasn't joined the fight yet. Hybrid is going to drop.
Yeah, between a Rock and an ex-Peke, really difficult to get away from. He's found Vicinity, but that's a lot of damage from Morsu jumping in with the Blade Surge. He'll be chasing down the clone here. There's the Tibbers, be following through again with the damage. Kotsku from the bot side trying to get the damage out, but he's locked down by Soaz, always ready to guard his teammates. Kyrie, oh, the damage from Niels. The return swing from the boomerang, Morsu and Vicinity trying to get away with their lives. There's a 2 versus a 4 if they want to defend their base.
And the Wolves have been forced all the way out of the base with bottom lane pushing in already. And the rest of Origen are just going to head through the middle lane here and look to close this out. But look at the death timers here on the rest of the Copenhagen Wolves. The average loss time for the Wolves has been around 30 minutes. We've just hit that mark, and Origen are up to the Nexus turrets.
Yep, Soaz going underneath the turrets there. Morsu takes a chunk of damage from Peke, but that's all the minions gone for now. Without the help of the Baron buff, it's a little difficult to siege underneath those double Nexus turrets. It will give a little bit of breathing room for the Wolves just for a couple minutes here as Origen regroup, go back to base, and rethink their strategy. Pretty much they can just go into the top lane. They have a big wave pushing if they want to just close this slow, take away those inhibitors, and just bleed them out, which probably is the best strategy. It will take a little longer, it may not be as flashy, but it may be the correct call.
And Origen, they already have 3 dragons to their name. The 4th, potentially for them, would be up in 47 seconds. And that's a fairly easy take for them now with 2 inhibitors down. So it means if Origen do end up somehow being dragged later into this game, it would only be about 6 minutes longer, as a 5th dragon would be well within their grasp. But I actually don't think Origen are going to struggle to that point, as Peke has just been so good at blowing people up in this game 1.
Well, he's got no shortage of targets either. He can pretty much target anyone on that team who isn't hybrid. Morsu as well. I mean, he's got the Merc Treads and pretty much nothing else. He now has the health behind it to increase his effective health, but Peke, he has his pick of the litter on who he wants to blow up. 19-3 has really just shown how the game has gone and how many picks that they've managed to get.
Origen pretty much know exactly how this game is at this point, and you can tell that from the item path out of Mithy here. He's picked up a Righteous Glory as well. That now makes 2 on Origen's side. It's a build we've seen out of a couple of Annies, but it's all about just getting on top of people, and Origen are getting themselves on top of another inhibitor tower. This will be the 3rd of the game.
This is 4 versus 3 though, because Soaz managed to interrupt the teleports from 2 other carries in the mid lane. It's a question of whether Soaz will go down and have his first death of the game. In fact, that's not the case. He's just too tanky, and Hybrid will get chained here. It's now the first Nexus turret going down. Origen might just close out this game here and now. Here goes the second Nexus turret. He'll be moving on to the Nexus itself. How much can Morsu do? I don't think they can do very much. They're just so far behind in this game, and Origen will be taking the first game of this series in this best of 5.
A great performance out of Origen, not showing any kind of nerves here on the stage. That's exactly what you'd expect from a lot of veteran players, and a great performance by Niels as well. Just all around Origen looking very strong in this game 1, but it's not all over yet for the Copenhagen Wolves Academy team. They still have their shot. That was only game 1 of a best of 5. There's plenty still to turn around.
Yeah, you can see the faces now on Lowland Lions. Origen looking actually pretty composed after that. And we'll see what they can do for the rest of the series. That's only game 1 of a potential 5 games we have today in this best of 5 between these 2 teams. But what a convincing performance from Origen for game 1.
Yeah, very convincing. And honestly, Origen got a lot of comfort picks in that game. You got Soaz on Maokai. Amazing got his Rek'Sai that he played in 6 of their 13 games. I mean, that's nearly half of the games.
Yeah.
At that point, you look at the champions they were given, LeBlanc on top of that. It was just so comfortable from Origen. Not at one point did the Copenhagen Wolves Academy really bring out anything that was super special.
Yeah.
They still tried to split push their way through to at least to drawing the game level, but it just wasn't enough.
Well, my problem from here on out is that Copenhagen Wolves, as you mentioned, Origen got their kind of star picks, their comfort picks, but so did the Wolves. I mean, they got the Morsu on his Aurelia, they got the Kyrie on his Nidalee, mid lane was on a comfort champion, you got the Ari coming out. We said 11 out of the 12 games so far has been on Corki or Graves. It was Corki this game. Where do they go from here? Do they bring out a pocket pick, which is always a coin flip?
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting point that you bring up, is now that you've done standard or favored against favored, now you have to either try it again and hope that it was just the execution, or do you have to pull out something different? Do you go for something like Morsu's Fiora or
Do you
something
go
crazy
full
like
Unicorns of Love here? It's like, is that what you're wanting to do? I mean, it might have to be the case. There's still a little bit of time to tell, though. The second game will not be ending the series just yet, but not quite the Wolves in dire straits, but they have a long way to go if they want to climb back up and win 3 games on the bounce.
They really do, but they have shown resolve. I mean, coming into this, everybody thought they weren't even going to be able to take some series. Then they ended up going 1-on-1 against teams that they should have been beating, like Origen. We know that the Wolves have beaten Origen in games before in a series. Now they have to do it subsequent times.
Oh, it's going to be very tough, but for an expert look into Origen's Game 1 win, let's hand it over to the analyst desk.
Thank you, Richard. Now, the Wolves looking quite startled, we have to say, after that game, and who wouldn't be after what happened. Let's take it back to picks and bans, and maybe if they drop or didn't drop the ball there already. You were saying during the game, or during picks and bans rather, Origen coming out with kind of an LCS-style comp, and the Wolves more of an LPL, LCK approach.
Yeah, when I saw the Wolves, Wolf Academy team comp, it was more like Corki Aurelia with double Trinity for Power Spike, and Nidalee with Hyper Aggression. And you usually see that if you really want to take the game in the hand around the mid-game, early mid-game. Especially with the Nidalee pick, you can just be very, very, very aggressive in the early game, invade the red buff and do all kinds of shenanigans. And it just didn't happen, frankly.
No, it really didn't. You know, the Copenhagen Wolves, I actually like the composition they put together. The Nidalee, Aurelia, Corki, you know, Aria had a lot of punch that could get there, had a lot of bite. The problem is they had all the bite of puppies because they got absolutely shut down early. And if you were touching right in the beginning of the day how the experience of Origen, is it going to shine through, how much is it going to be worth? And when you look at the first 5 minutes of this game, the lane swap, the individual decision making out of each carry and each role, Origen basically won the game already, just from a mentality standpoint and showing. I really had no idea what on earth Morsu or Kyrie were doing in the opening stages of the minute. Yes, they got invaded, but questionable decisions, poor lack of waste of time, basically. And it showed how smart Origen were.
Kirei was completely lost in this game here. You do not stay and try and contest a Gromp at level 1 against an enemy support and enemy jungler. At that time, you either go to your own red buff and run enemy blue, or you go straight enemy blue. And because you have your dual lane on the bottom side of the map, that's your side now. You swap, you turn around a little bit. Bottom side is yours, top side is Origen's. That also means your mid laner can then start moving down towards the bottom side of the mid lane, and he can stay like very far away from the top side, which means the very first gank happening from source would never have happened, because you had to walk in the lane, you could see him coming, and you could just walk down towards your own Raptor camp. But because Kirei is staying at the Gromp, doing I don't even know what, there was no control on the bottom side at any given time for them. They didn't even take the blue buff. They didn't do anything to shut down the Maokai. And they simply lost the whole game from the lane swap and from Kirei walking around and then later on even farming his own jungle instead of applying pressure or defending. So when you sit and farm your own jungle in a lane swap as well, you have no pressure on the enemy top laner. That's problem number 1. Also, you're not helping your own top laner in case he gets tower dived. And what happened is Origen just goes top lane, dives him, and Nidalee's like, I'm in my own jungle, I'm not doing anything. Like, it was just the first 10 minutes sealed the game.
Yeah, I think that was also seen afterwards in like level. Nidalee was one level ahead, even though dying in their own jungle and like stuff like this. And especially the execution about the lane swap was, as you said, very interesting. That Nidalee was taking so much focus on keeping the support with the jungler there. What in general you can do is you push out really hard the bottom side and start invading the blue just with your support and ADC, and you can just get it at this point. But they were opted to go for like slower push in the bottom side and like freezing the lane and then set up for a tower dive, which is something they did as well with Fiora. When they see that they have like this fighter against like the top side, then you usually just go for the tower dive and then you're in a good shape.
I think the overall plan, if you look at it like slow pushing the wave up, would force Origen to send down the support and send down the jungler to defend with the Maokai because it's a big wave. That's fine because it means you can teleport top lane with Aurelia, who you need to put in the solo lane. The problem is just you need to have your jungler there as well and not just... Yeah.
So Copenhagen Wolves Academy falling apart, I think, in the beginning and the rest of that game. But Origen, as you said, good adaptation. Aurelia, which was banned versus Copenhagen Wolves Academy 7 times in the Challenger Series, they let him have it and they executed their plan as they would have. Only once dropped the ball when Copenhagen Wolves Academy took the mid lane tower. But if those are the mistakes you're going to make when you're this far ahead, it really doesn't matter.
I agree, and the thing that I really liked about Origen in this particular matchup, when you look at their red side picks and bans, because remember they opted into red side in this game, their first rotation picks was Maokai and Rek'Sai, who went 1-0-11 on Maokai, 6-1-8 Rek'Sai. Amazing, punished the level 2 roam from Soaz within 3 minutes. Soaz forced a flash, Rek'Sai came back and killed. Then as the game progressed, the last pick, LeBlanc, FLICKR, 4-1-3, while he wasn't the solo hard carry, he was always in the right position, he was always jumping on the right target. This is one of the examples of how that red side pick strategy can really work into your favor. Origen read their opponents like a book, had a lane swap planned, and honestly, they just executed everything they wanted to.
Yeah, I think they played really well around this Maokai Rek'Sai. They were really confident in their team comp because once you really breached through this Trinity power spike, or like they didn't even hit it, you just are way stronger with the tankiness of Maokai and how many resources you have to invest to kill this tree.
Yeah.
And the Rek'Sai was really, really nice. We saw multiple times the CC lock with either way the Rek'Sai knock up first, and then the Maokai fall up or the other way around. So I think really smart and comfortable drafting for Origen.
Yeah, especially the Copenhagen Wolves Academy allowed them to have those picks. As you say, Copenhagen Wolves Academy for the next one are on the red side. What are the must-bans for you? Or what is the approach? Full Unicorns of Love?
The Unicorns of Love, I think that Maokai Rek'Sai is something that you can counter as well in pick and ban. We also left it open for Gambit, but I still think that they can either way ban the Maokai because it's such a strong pick right now, and if they don't feel like we have a comfortable strategy against it, just ban it out. So yeah.
Well, the thing is, we cannot take too much from this pick and ban phase because of the way the game was played. Aurelia into Maokai on paper would have been fine if they got standard lanes. Had an Italy coming up, you win the 2-2 against the Rek'Sai Maokai, and you snowball the Aurelia that way, and suddenly it looks great for you. The way they played the lane swap basically meant it doesn't matter. The
we know.
It doesn't matter. No, my point is they can pick exactly the same and they can win the game if they don't mess up the lane swap like they did in this one.
All right, they just got to get their head back in the game and know that nothing is over yet. We need to step away as the Copenhagen Wolves Academy and Origen gear up for Game 2. But before we go, we'll hear about the differences between playing to get to the LCS stage and actually playing on the LCS stage.
Challenger is the highest ranking, basically.
We are just playing from the gaming house and playing on internet against like other Challenger teams.
It's a lot different to play in LCS than to play Challenger at your house. Because when you play LCS, you feel it a lot different. You're at the studio, you have the crowd.
There's like a few hundred people watching on stage. You know, there's 100,000 or more watching on stream.
I mean, some people feel more comfortable at home than they feel like playing on a stage or in front of a crowd, especially some people get nervous. Some people play better under pressure because they feel like they have to perform, but it's different from person to person.
The only time I got nervous is when we had to qualify to get into Challenger, because if we didn't get into Challenger, it would be pretty bad for us.
It's a lot different. When you win a game especially, you want to meet the fans. So it's a lot different here. You just win the game, shake hands and be like, oh, good job. And you're like, okay. Which series was I watching before? And go back to watch your series because you're at your place already. That's the thing I miss the most out of LCS. Mostly the going to the studio, having that crowd there and knowing that people is there to cheer for you and want to take pictures with you is the best.